Hi, welcome back. Today I want to talk about not feeling good enough. I struggle with it all the time. I've been struggling with it lately for some reason. I woke up a couple days ago and I'm like, why? Why is it that this isn't working for me? Why is it that I'm just not feeling good enough? And there's a version of faith that people like to talk about, the peaceful kind, the kind where everything makes sense and where you trust and things work out, where you believe and you just feel steady. But they don't talk about the actual faith that you live through, the kind you fight for and you question, and the kind that shows up when you don't feel strong, especially when you don't feel like you're good enough. There are moments, and maybe you've had them, where everything looks fine from the outside. And that's been my thing lately. But internally, it's a completely different conversation in your head. You're looking around thinking, why are they ahead of me when it comes to work? Why can they land that client and I can't land that client? Why have they figured it out? Why is it easier for everyone else? And then you start reflecting internally and you're like, what's wrong with me? Or you wake up and you're like, God, Lord, why does this feel so hard? Why is every day I wake up and this is just feeling so hard? And that's a different way that your faith is tested, right? And you feel guilty because you feel like you're questioning God. It's not that big a deal, to be honest with you. And it's not that big a deal in those obvious moments, but it becomes a big deal in the quieter moments when you're just reflecting with yourself. Faith isn't always confident. Faith is faith. And sometimes you need it to show up when you're doubting yourself, and it does. You need it to show up when you're feeling behind, and it does. And you need it to make you feel good about things and feel positive about things. And sometimes you're relying on that faith even when your life isn't reflecting it. And that happens to you walk into a room and you don't automatically meet everybody in the room. Or, like I said, you pitch a client and they don't give you the job, or you interview for this amazing job and you don't get it. And you've gone through all the interviews, and in the very end, it comes down to you and somebody else, and they chose that other person. That's happened to me in the past. I haven't been in that situation lately, but it has happened. And you sit there and you go, ugh. There's this verse that says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. This is 2 Corinthians 12:9. And I've always thought that's comforting, but it's also a little confronting because it means you don't have to be strong all the time and you don't have to have it all together all the time. And sometimes you feel like, okay, well, I'm a Christian and I believe in God and I have faith and I pray every day. And so I have to be strong all the time and I have to have it all together all the time. And this is your mind playing tricks on you, right? It's because this is the human side of you. And then you don't understand why you're like, oh, I don't feel together today. And I think one of the hardest parts in living your life, especially as a woman over 50, over 60, even over 40, is comparing yourself to other people and watching people get things that you've wanted, whether it's a relationship, whether it's recognition, whether it's the life that feels like it's coming easier for another person than it is for you. But you're trying to not turn those things into your self-worth. So you're trying really hard to do all this. And the simple line in scripture that says, each one should test their own actions without comparing themselves to someone else. Galatians 6:4, which sounds super simple until you actually try to live it, because comparison is constant and comparison is human. And if you're not careful, it slowly convinces you that you're just not enough. And like I said, I've been struggling with this lately. And I've been looking back at different aspects of my life. Maybe it's because I'm going through a lot of personal stuff right now, and I talked about it on my last video. I've been feeling really vulnerable. So I've been comparing myself to a lot of things. I've even gone back several years and been like, well, now, why is it I never got married? Why is it that the Lord brought somebody to that person but didn't bring somebody to me? This is a slippery slope, right? I could have gone down the rabbit hole and really started overthinking things. And I almost did, but I stopped myself. It's a feeling of not being chosen. And I almost went there. And it really is easy to internalize all this. And I'm an internalizer anyway. And I just don't want to assume that you all are, but I know there's people out there that do internalize. And I want you to know, just because you're not chosen, or just because you lost some opportunities, or maybe you were not what you believe was fortunate in love, it's not the same as not being worthy. And it's not the same as not being enough. And I think that's where faith becomes personal, because it asks you to believe in something different than your experiences are telling you. It's choosing not to let disappointment define who you are. And I made that choice many, many years ago. In 1998, I was first diagnosed with a form of ovarian cancer. And I'm so blessed. I have no complaints, but it's reared its ugly head several times in the last 20 some odd years. And people are like, I don't know how you can take it, because I've decided that I won't let it define who I am. I talk about it when I want to. I don't let it define who I am as a person. I allow myself the grace of having to deal with it, but then also putting it in God's hands and not worrying about it. I wish I was that way about every other aspect of my life. For some reason, I was really good about that. I did not let it define me, and it was disappointing. It changed my whole life. It changed the whole trajectory of what my life could have been. But I've had a great life, and I'm very blessed. And I hold on to this quiet belief that my story isn't over, and that timing is not wrong. God's timing is never wrong. My value and my self-worth is not up for negotiation. That's the most important part. My story is never over. Even though it doesn't feel like that, think about it. I am worth so much more than even my head is saying. It's easy to believe when everything is going well, but it says, He's made everything beautiful in its time, Ecclesiastes 3:11. And what I wanted to say was, if I'm being honest, that's really easy to believe when things are going well. But real faith is believing it when things aren't going well. And you just kind of sit back and go, yeah, everything is going to be beautiful in its time. And I just have to be patient and faithful. And that's hard. Oh my God, that's so hard. But that's part of life. Just because we're faithful people and we believe in the Lord and we are promised so many things as Christians, we're also in this world and we're affected by what goes on in this world, whether it's illness or disappointments or love loss or anything like that. So it's in those times that we believe that everything is beautiful in God's time. Yeah, that's hard. So if this is your season, that you're not feeling good enough, like I am, or if you're feeling overlooked, which I've done in the past, or you're just tired of trying, which sometimes I feel tired of trying, you're not alone. I just want you to know you're not alone. And more than that, you're not disqualified as a person. Faith isn't easy, but it's real. And sometimes real faith is the kind that you have to fight for. Ecclesiastes 3:11, which is what I read, He has made everything beautiful in His time. It ties directly to waiting and comparing yourself and feeling behind. But you know what it does? It gives you hope with no pressure. Like, pressure's off. And you'll know it, and it's going to be perfect for you. Even though you're going through some of these things and it's really hard for you and you've gone down the rabbit hole like I have lately and you've done all these things and you think that you're waiting, It's just not your time. And when it is, you'll know, and it'll be beautiful and perfect. I want to hear from you what you've laid at the Lord's feet and what you've been waiting for and when he answered your prayer. Because I think that's the promise, right? That's the faith. And that's the hard won faith. That's the faith that it wasn't easy and came with life experiences and age and all of those things that we talk about here. So let me know in the comments what you waited for and when the time came, it was the perfect time, or what you're still waiting for, so that we in this community can pray for you. Because I'd love to know if there's anybody that needs prayer for anything, let me know. Thank you again for stopping by and listening, and can't wait for our next video. I will talk to you soon. Thanks.